It's a great pleasure to have you join us again for the Diaspora here on the NTA. Now, this week we have an update on the situation with Nigerians who have been trafficked in various forms to Mali. There's an update also on the interviews we have with some Nigerians who are connected to the diaspora, or Nigerians that are in the diaspora who actually came back to vote. There's also a tribute to two Nigerians who are in the diaspora but died, unfortunately, in the ill-fated Ethiopian Airlines crash from Addis Ababa to Nairobi. Welcome again to the program. I am Makut Simon Macham. Let's begin with the continuation of our interviews on the 2019 elections and the Nigerian diaspora. Last edition, we brought you some Nigerians in the diaspora who expressed their views on the elections. Today, we have more of Nigerians in the diaspora and, of course, some Nigerian diaspora mobilizers who were part of mobilizing the diaspora concerning the 2019 elections. Here are their views.
I would say I felt very proud as a Nigerian participating in the 2019 elections in Nigeria. For the presidential and the National Assembly elections, which took place in February, I felt proud, but I was a little disappointed because my experience in my polling unit and in my ward, which is Ward 8, Ibodo, in the Kano East local government area, was peaceful, it was credible, and it was fair. But when you look at the totality of all the polling units across the country, there were pockets and areas where there were violence. And but for Nigerian diasporas, what we expect from our elected officials would be that they are transparent, and then they are accountable for the offices they've been elected to. And we all understand that democracy, it's, for them to actually make sure that the dividends of democracy reaches the people that they are representing. And so it's, they voted by the people, and so they have to deliver to the people. So for us in diaspora, we expect that the elected officials make sure that the mandate which they actually were voted for, such as the health sector, they make sure that they provide universal health coverage for every Nigerian in Nigeria. We also look at the educational sector, that every child has quality and effective and efficient education in Nigeria. We're also looking at the fact that they make end hunger actually in Nigeria, that every child actually has access to food. We also hope that our elected officials would make sure that we have constant electricity, because that has been a great problem in Nigeria, because we know that if we can have constant electricity, that would attract international investors to come into Nigeria and invest, and that would also grow the economy, because that ends up being a ripple effect, and the economy starts to grow and the people begin to enjoy the dividends of democracy. For us in diaspora, we really expect elected officials to live up to the expectations of Nigerians in all ramifications, in terms of education, health sector. Now, there's no Nigerian diaspora voting, and that's because we haven't gotten there yet. The problem right now is that we even have problems with collation, even on the ward, at the ward level, in the polling units to ward to local government. So think about it. If you have Nigerians in diaspora sitting in America or England or Germany trying to vote, we haven't even gotten it right here in Nigeria. So that's a difficult process. And at this point, we are not there yet. So my advice is that we will get there, because we're hopeful. But for right now, since we're not there, the advice to the diasporas is to try and key in. They can also come back and make the sacrifice, because we know America and Great Britain, they weren't built up in a, in a decade, or they were built up over decades. And it took a lot of sacrifice. For Nigerians in diaspora, right now we are not at the electronic voting where they can vote, so they will have to come back home and be part of the electoral process to actually see that they deliver what their intentions are and how they want to see Nigeria become in the near future. If they're doing their own part, what we expect from our Nigerians in diaspora would be to bring their own quota to Nigeria and see how they can contribute and key into the government and help advance Nigeria. Because Nigeria is a country for all of us, and we have to make our sacrifices. And a lot of times we can't do this when we're sitting in countries outside of Nigeria. We have to come home and be part of the process and make that sacrifice and help contribute and advance Nigeria.
In UN, I was able to meet other African countries and Nigerians, and we're able to discuss, we're able to rub mind, and after we're able to tell them what is really on ground. Nigeria, what we need is technology transfer. We have everything, we are endowed with everything that we need. If our people there are ready to calm down, and I was able to discuss with few of them, over 90% of them have started doing one or two things in the country, in the area of hospital, in the area of technology, and they were overwhelmed and they believe in Nigeria. And I have some Nigerians, they are die-hard Buharis. Because, for example, after we finished from UN, we were able to travel to Florida to be part of Nigeria-American Business Forum. And we engaged them on how we'll be able to collaborate. They were saying, look, Haruna, we don't have any other place. You guys should see what we can do. We are ready to come. And I met few of my friends from other parts of Nigeria, and they make me understand that some of them are having fun in Nigeria.
What should Nigerians in the diaspora be doing to contribute to governance? Because sometimes you talk to them, they say, oh, Nigeria is not secure, oh, this complaint or that complaint, there's no infrastructure, there's no this. What should be their action now, since they are also interested in ensuring that Nigeria is better?
Security is not for Mr. President alone. Security is for everybody. And I mentioned to them, after my interaction with them, after the business forum, I said, look, empowering the youth. I do Man is Devil workshop. And that's why I now told some of them, I discussed with them, they said, look, Haruna, you are making a point. And they are ready to come in mass and start investing in agriculture, in ICT, because I was able to discuss with them at length, and they are ready to come to the country. And some of them, even the last dispensation, I've met some of them, they show me video of how they were able to travel all over Nigeria to see where they can come in. And I believe they are ready to come in, and my advice to the government, what is stopping some of them to come and invest is bureaucracy.
You know, there are young people who feel that going abroad is the main thing. They are desperate to go abroad. You see a lot of them dying on the sea, in the desert, trying to cross abroad. What's your advice to these young people?
My brother, I will ask myself, and if you can ask yourself, some of them going to abroad spend as much as 1 million to 500,000. Can't they use that money to start business? We have been to abroad. It's not rosy. There are hard-working people in abroad. If you tell some of our people that are in abroad, they have 2 or 3 jobs. Some of them goes to office, goes to factory work to pay their scholarship, to pay their school fees. I met some professors. They said, look, I work in 4 places. But I don't see any reason going to abroad. Nothing so special about abroad. They are going to suffer themselves. And another one that I keep on asking myself, they don't have the education. What are you going to do in abroad? And if they should ask some of our brothers there, those that have went into crime, they are in jail. And By the time they come to spend some few days or few weeks in Nigeria with things they are not ready to tell our youth here, please, it's not rosy over there. And when they come to deceive them, some bad element among them comes and tell them what is not happening abroad. Like, for example, showing up the way things is, and they are not ready to tell, look, my brother, I'm working very hard for me to survive. They are not telling our youth that, and it's very unfortunate. I'll advise anybody that wants to go to abroad, you are not going to make money there. You are just going to suffer yourself, risking your life.
Fellow Nigerians abroad, because we visited several states abroad, and we also visited the United Nations in canvassing for support for the President Buhari administration. And we realized that we had a lot of Nigerians with the same views and who had the same feelings towards this administration. They were supportive of President Buhari, and in their own little way, they also aided in the election of President Buhari through financial support, through mobilization, which we did when we went across the United States, and we're surprised. We're surprised at the level of support that they had for this government. So it's interesting. I think one of the few things you should try and do is, if it's possible, to incorporate the Nigerians in diaspora, for them to have a voting voice in the electoral process, participate in the electoral process, rather than, so it goes beyond mere mobilization. And a lot of them, what I was even made aware of, a lot of our Nigerians in diaspora, because even though they're abroad, a lot of them actually flew into the country to participate. A lot of them came back to get their PVCs to make sure that they voted on election day. And I'm sure, because we do not take, you probably do not take cognizance of the fact that there's a lot of movement and traffic between the time before the election period. A lot of them came back to participate. So even without them having the chance to do that abroad, those that were able to contributed by coming back to mobilize their families, their friends' support for this administration. So we were glad, that our Nigerians abroad see the progress that we're making, and we're glad that they've contributed to the re-election of President Buhari, and for him to be able to consolidate on the good works that his administration has started. So I believe that Nigerians and diaspora actually contributed a lot, to...
Nigerians in the diaspora, they are very keen about the development of the country and, of course, its democracy. Away from the issue of politics, let's move to Mali, where we bring you an update of the situation with Nigerians that have been trafficked through and to that country. My colleague Usman Ali was recently in Mali, and he brought back this report.
Queues of desperation in Kokoyo, western region of Mali, a place in the heart of many people for good and bad memories. It's easy to understand this paradox. This is a community with dual stories. It is an environment that provides means of livelihood to gold miners from many African countries, and on the bad side, it's an arena for crimes against humanity. Girls are abused here. 357 of these girls are said to be from Nigeria, working as sex traders. They are victims of human trafficking.
Animals cannot stay in this kind of place in Nigeria, and yet these are where our young girls, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, this is where they stay, and they are held captive here for more than a year plus. You can see the distance from the nearest town to this place. Any girl that is brought here cannot escape. And many of them say they were told they were going to Malaysia, they were going to work with white people, they were going to clean homes, they were going to be housekeepers, they were going to be baby keepers, they were going to sell, and then they are trapped here. So it's man's humanity to man, and it's really despicable. The agency has been engaging with transporters, but this has assumed very great, much greater urgency. MAPTIP is going to combine sensitization with action. We're going to also have some intelligence, and we're going to carry out some operations. One thing that the DG has said, which I'm re-echoing, is that our law empowers us to impound vehicles that are being used for trafficking, and also to wind down such companies, apart from jailing those who are operating them. So NATIP is going to not just sensitize and appeal to people. I think it is time that NATIP is going to bite.
Some of them were abducted, others deceived by those recruiting them. They are paying their masters, the madams, at least 1.5 million cefas, an equivalent of nearly 2 million naira. And it takes them minimum of 2 years to settle the madam to get their freedom. What they undergo here is unimaginable. Hoodlums can come at any time to rape and rob without apology or compensation. When we arrived, most of the girls ran away to avoid being molested. And that was how this baby was abandoned by her mother.
We have been experiencing a lot of situations from all these girls. Some of all these girls, when they bring them to Mali, they confiscate their documents. Some of them, they call their heirs, private heir fingernails, just to get them hostage. At the end of the day, it's very, very difficult for them to get out of it when they were told that they are going to pay some amount. So many of them now, they are forced, due to what they have collected, the body items they have collected from them. Some of them, if they refuse, they can be locked up for more than a week, starve them without giving them food. At the end of the day, nobody to help them. They are helpless, and they now succumb to the pressure of madam. But we, as anti-human trafficking, we always arrest the trafficker immediately we get an information, and we take them to court to prosecute the traffickers or the madam who has been collecting money from them.
As far as the Malian government is concerned, it's difficult to differentiate between those trafficked and those professional prostitutes. This is because their own judgment to identity is simple. Once you are from ECOWAS community, you can freely move. Therefore, for those registered commercial sex workers, the authorities will never infringe on what the Malian government see as their human right.
The situation here to me as a mother and as the Director General of NAPTAP is very, very pitiful. Very beautiful young girls that were deceived into thinking they were going to Malaysia, and they were brought here in the worst conditions you can imagine. You can see their living conditions here are really, really appalling. And these girls want to go back into something. What they are scared of is the fear of the unknown. The question they are asking is, what are we going back to do? But we've promised them that there's work waiting for them. The President Muhammadu Buhari, wants each and every one of them to come back, because we have a program, a rehabilitation program for every one of them. But the girls are willing to come back, and we'll definitely take them back. Obviously, they didn't come on their own. They were deceived by the so-called madams who lured them to bringing them here to work for them. And I can assure you that we're going to go after them, and they will be prosecuted. And every penny that these young girls have worked for will be returned back to them. That's for sure.
The good story this time is Nigeria and Mali are working closely on how to track the crime collaborators, their agents, the recruiters and transporters involved in human trafficking across the two nations, and seek for justice for the victims.
We are also collaborating with the Malian authorities to lay our hands on those who are behind this particular epidemic. And some people have been jailed, some people are under trial.
The federal government is planning for repatriation of these girls back home, where they will undergo rehabilitation and empowerment programs once more to smile. It is estimated that more than 30,000 Nigerian girls are currently victims of human trafficking in Mali. This set of 31 girls are prepared for returning to Nigeria. Some of them are not coming back alone, but they are coming with additional population to the country, which in the first they were not ready for, but now they have to look after.
If you're just joining us, this is the Diaspora here on the NTA, where we're talking about Nigerians in the diaspora, their welfare and well-being, and of course what they are bringing to the table for the development of Nigeria. Now let's go to Kenya, where unfortunately we're talking about the airline that crashed between Addis Ababa and Nairobi. 2 Nigerians were reported to have died in that air crash. We're talking about Professor Adesomi, who is based in Canada, and of course Ambassador Abiodun, who was based in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Let's begin with this tribute for Professor Adesomi, put together by Joy Osiago in Canada.
That pressure on all sides for initiatives, the initiatives to come, from the continent.
That was Professor Pius Adesomi commenting on the need for Africa to change the perception and lingering asymmetry between Africa and the West. He was a strong advocate for a system that will enable Africans co-construct new policies for environmental sustainability by harvesting the collective strength and knowledge of indigenous people. Nigerian-born Canadian Professor Adesomi, who was the director of the Institute of African Studies at the Carleton University, Ottawa, was among the 157 passengers and crew members that died on Sunday, 10th March 2019, on board Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 from Addis Ababa to Nairobi, Kenya. He was on his way to attend the African Union ECOSOC Committee meeting. Professor Adesomi was a modern columnist who was quick to vent his frustrations regularly about leadership challenges and maladies in contemporary politics and topical issues about Africa. His satirical commentaries are a reader's delight. He was the winner of the inaugural Penguin Prize for African Writing in the non-fiction category with his manuscript, You're Not a Country, Africa. He also authored Naija Dey Carry Last. Global Affairs Canada confirmed he was among 18 Canadians traveling to Nairobi. Carleton University community and Nigerians in Canada are grieving the tragic death of Professor Pius Adesomi from Yagba East local government area of Kogi State, Nigeria.
Indeed, a very big loss for Nigeria and the international community. May his soul rest in peace. Also on that plane was Ambassador Abiodun Oluremi, a retired ambassador from the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs who was on contract with the African Union in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Here is a tribute to late Ambassador Abiodun Oluremi. Late Ambassador Abiodun Oluremi Bashwa, who hails from Lagos State, was born in 1951 and joined the Nigerian Foreign Service in 1976. During his career, the late ambassador served in different capacities both at the Nigerian Foreign Affairs headquarters and in Nigerian missions in Austria, Cote d'Ivoire, Iran, and many others. A seasoned UN expert, late Ambassador Bashwa had extensive experience in several UN peacekeeping operations. He joined the AU-UN hybrid operation in Darfur, Sudan in 2009 and was appointed Deputy Joint Special Representative for the mission in 2014. He was also the Secretary to the Conference of Parties of the UN Framework on Climate Change. Until his death, he was the interim chairman of the Nigerian community in Ethiopia. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jeffrey Onyama, has on behalf of the ministry expressed heartfelt sympathies to the family of late Ambassador Bashwa, praying God to grant him eternal rest. And all we can say from here is that may their souls rest in peace and may God grant the families the comfort they deserve at this moment. It's on that note that we end the Diaspora for this week. Thank you very much for watching, and we invite you again next time for another edition. I am Makut Simon Macham, thanking you on behalf of everyone who has made this program successful. Goodbye.